Hi, everyone, and welcome. We're so glad that you were able to join us this evening for a conversation with Jeff Johnson. I'm Karen Hansen, the Marketing and Communication Manager here at Can Do Canines, and I will be presenting questions to Jeff this evening. Thank you to so many of you who submitted questions ahead of time. That was really helpful and will give us a good start on things. You can still do so while we chat this evening by using the Q&A feature on the bottom of your screen. We will get to as many of those as we can by about 8 o'clock. Also, if you want to use closed captioning, that is down below too. So now I'd like to share a little about Jeff. As an active and mission-driven community leader, Jeff has held numerous leadership positions of organizations including North Star Twin Cities, Young Life, Community Action Partnership of Hennepin County, and the Governor's Workforce Development Council. Jeff is the author of 2 books on positive family, personal, and professional relationships. Then in 2020, he collaborated to launch the nonprofit organization North Star Neighbor, which was formed to spread a message of hope and compassion by serving our neighbors who are at a higher risk of COVID-19 complications. Jeff also has a long history of civic leadership. He served as a Minnesota State Representative, Hennepin County Commissioner, and was twice a gubernatorial candidate for the state of Minnesota. Jeff is also the founder of Midwest Employment Resources, a law practice focused on human resource topics. He holds a JD degree from Georgetown University Law Center and is licensed to practice law in both Minnesota and Wisconsin. Jeff took over as executive director here in January after founder and executive director Al Peters retired. And I know Jeff is eager to share his experiences so far with you. So at this time, I will turn it over to Jeff.
Awesome. Thank you, Karen. And thank you, Justine, for being with us tonight too, to interpret for those who need that. I know we got a lot of questions. Some of you sent them in beforehand. Some of you are sending them in now. But I did, before I start answering questions, I did just want to tell you a little bit about my journey from my past life to Can Do Canines, and then just share a little more with you about how the transition has gone and what we're looking at at least in the near term future. So as Karen mentioned, my background is in kind of one side business, law, and HR, and on the other side, government and politics, which has kind of been more the focus the last few years. And just a little over 2 years ago, I decided it was time to move on from government and politics. Well, actually, the voters of Minnesota helped me decide that it was time to move on from government and politics. And I had some time to kind of really think about that. I had time to spend with my wife and my family to discuss it and pray about it. And while lobbying was kind of the obvious place to go after spending 30 years in this field, that just wasn't right for me. And after a lot of consideration, we decided that the right place to go was, if it was to be, to either lead or help lead a nonprofit that served vulnerable people. So maybe people with drug addictions, or maybe people in poverty, or maybe people with disabilities. And so I started that search and talked to a lot of different organizations over the course of about 1.5 years. And then 6 months or so, 7 months or so ago, Can Do Canines came along. And I quickly realized that this was the dream job for me. And it worked out. And I will just tell you, I am thrilled and absolutely blessed to be here. I've learned in a very short time. I've been on the job as executive director for 3.5 months, I think exactly 3.5 months. And I've learned very quickly that this is just a really unique and special organization. And there are a lot of reasons for that. One of those reasons is our staff. We have 43 employees now, and without exception, they are tremendous people. They are creative and passionate and mission-driven and intelligent people. And I am so thankful to be able to work with this group. It doesn't mean that we all can't get better. Every one of us, including me, can get better, and we will strive to get better at what we do every single day. But I have to say, one of the highlights has been to meet this staff and recognize how amazing they really are. But I have to add, if what we had was this amazing staff and the truly amazing dogs that they train and raise. But we didn't have you, we would not be anything. If you're a donor, for example, and I know we got a bunch of donors, small and large, that are watching tonight, you have been so generous for so long to us. And in particular, over this past year, when everybody has gone through some tough times, you've helped us get through it. We are financially stable. There's not a lot of nonprofits, or I should say there are a lot of nonprofits who probably can't say that they're financially stable right now. But we are. That doesn't mean we're not going to ask you for more, because we want to serve more people. But we are financially stable because of your generosity, and we are so thankful for that. Volunteers, oh my gosh, I have been involved in a lot of nonprofits over the years, and every one of them has relied fairly heavily on volunteers. None of them anywhere near the level that Can Do Canines does. We have hundreds of volunteers, and many of you give weeks or months or years of your lives whelping puppies or raising dogs and then giving them away to other people. That is, to me, that's unfathomable, because I don't think I could do it. Although we do have a dog now, and eventually when he moves on, we'll give it a try. But what we ask of you is unbelievable. And it's unlike any organization I've ever been a part of. And I am so thankful that we have you, because our business model doesn't work without our volunteers. And then finally, our clients. I just want to say thank you for choosing us to be part of this amazing new partnership that you have created in your life with one of our dogs. That partnership is the reason we exist. And so we are very, very thankful that you have chosen us and that we can be part of that. We're at an amazing, exciting moment in the history of this organization. You all know Al Peters. He started this organization almost 32 years ago as an idea in his head, and he turned it into what it is today, which is one of the largest and most impressive assistance dog organizations in the country, actually in the world. Following him is not going to be easy, because he's an extraordinary leader. But with leadership changes also come opportunities. And we have a chance now to really dream about what the next chapter is for Can Do Canines. And I think that's exciting for everybody here on staff. It's also exciting, hopefully, for all of you who are part of this organization in our kind of our army, our big family of volunteers and donors and clients. We are right in the middle of strategic planning, where we're looking at what do the next 3, 5, 7 years look like for us. And while we don't have a draft yet, and we don't even necessarily have the framework set, so I don't want to share too much, I do want to share with you, because you all deserve to know kind of what the themes are that we're hearing. This might change because we need more input from many of you and more input from all of our staff. But here are some of the themes, at least. One of the themes is that we need to enhance the experience for our clients and for our volunteers. I've talked to a lot of you over the last few months, both volunteers and clients, and I hear very, very positive things, wonderful things, but I also hear things that we can do better. And so that is going to be likely a focus of ours coming out of strategic planning. How can we do better? Because we can always do better, right? Another theme that comes out is that we really want to raise the profile of Can Do Canines. I've heard us described as one of the best kept secrets in the Twin Cities, or in Minnesota and Wisconsin, actually. We don't want to be that anymore. We want everybody to know about us. And the story we have to tell is amazing, and frankly, much better than a lot of people telling stories out there. And there's a couple of reasons why I think raising the profile is important. Number one, the more people know about us, the more donors we have, the more volunteers we have, the more clients we have, and that's a good thing for us. But more importantly than that, it relates to the issues of diversity and inclusion. We're a fairly homogeneous organization, not by design, but by circumstance. And the more we can raise our profile and become active and present in communities that we haven't been in before, that opens up a whole new world to us of clients and volunteers and board members and employment applicants. And that is a really good thing for Can Do Canines. So I'm certain that's going to be one of our focuses as well. And then finally, kind of the big question of how do we grow? how do we serve more people? Because we want to serve more people. And that could go about 20 different directions. Some of them we'll talk about tonight. But just know that while we don't know what growth looks like exactly, we really do want to serve more people. And that will be part of the bottom line in the end. So with that, I wish we could all be together, but we can't right now. This is the best we've got, and we'll make do with that. And I'll call Karen back. And what I will try to do is answer as many questions as we can tonight. Since I'm the new guy, it's possible that I won't be able to answer some of these questions, but I will make sure in those cases that someone gets back to whoever asked that question with an answer.
All right, so
here we go.
So Jeff, since you just mentioned how we can't be together, let's start with questions related to that. One volunteer mentions that she misses her usual weekly walks at our facility with the pups, and she asks, when will fully vaccinated volunteers be allowed back in the building to do their weekly activities, and what protocols will be changing?
So my very first question, I have to say, I don't know. I'm sorry. But my hope is that the answer to that is soon. We haven't made a decision on that yet, but if things continue to go the way they appear to in the state and nationally, it does seem that everyone who wants to be vaccinated will be in the next, hopefully the next couple months by early summer. And to me, that seems like the reasonable time to start opening things up to more volunteers. We have had a few that have come in to do some things. But on a more regular basis, I think we're probably looking at another 6 to 8 weeks. If circumstances change, we may have to rethink that, but that's my hope at least, is that we'll be getting volunteers back in here early summer.
All right, how about our important prison partnerships? Do we know what we can expect as far as the prisons being ready to accept more dogs for training?
So we have 7 prisons that we are partnering with. 3 of them we are in right now. So all 7 of them made us leave for obvious reasons because of COVID. They needed to focus on other things and not have their inmates together training dogs. But 3 of them were back in, and I believe we're pretty much at full speed at all 3 of those. I actually talked to staff about this just a few days ago, and of the 4 that we're not in, they are pretty confident that we'll be back in 3 of those 4 in the next few months, maybe the next 2 to 4 months, 6 at the most. There's one prison that still really isn't even looking at this, but our hope is that, again, if things continue to go as they're going now, hopefully by the end of the year, we could be back in all 7 prisons. And once we get to that point, we'll be, looking at possibly expanding that prison program. It's such an important piece. When I talk about how unique this organization is, it's unique in a lot of ways. One of those ways is the prison program. I tell people about this prison program, and they're moved and amazed by it, as I was the first time I heard about it, because this is not just about changing the life of a person with a disability and creating this wonderful partnership. This also changes the lives of the inmates who do this, because we hear from them about how this has given them a new sense of purpose, and it has taught them skills that they didn't have before. It's a really cool program. And so, it's sad that for nearly a year we weren't able to do this, but it's exciting that we're now moving back in, and hopefully, by the end of the year, we're at full force or close to it, and we can look at maybe even expanding the program.
Okay. A long-term foster volunteer shared that when puppies leave her home, communication about them can be limited, which of course would be very painful. So how can we better address that, especially during COVID?
I've heard that a lot as I've talked to volunteers over the past 2-3 months, and I have talked to staff about it. They are very aware of this issue. And before I started, there were actually already some plans in the works to try to address this. And as part of strategic planning, when we talk about how do we improve the volunteer experience, this will be a part of it. How do we better communicate with our puppy raisers and our whelpers, the ones who have spent a lot of time with these dogs and then give them up and don't get to see them anymore. We have a rule that says once the client and the dog are together, we like it that if there's no contact between the volunteers and the client for a year, for purposes of helping that bond between the client and the dog, which I think everybody understands and accepts and tries to abide by. But what about that year when these volunteers who have grown so close to the dog don't even know what's happening? And, I know our policy in the past has been we've tried to share some information, and anybody who emails us or calls and asks, we'll get them the information. But we would love to see, we will see something in place that doesn't require our volunteers to ask that question, so that this is not an easy thing to do. It sounds simple, but I don't think it is. But try to put some sort of process in place where our volunteers, once they bring that dog back and the dog is matched, can get some information on a, however, every once in a while basis about here's what's happening with your dog, and answer questions that come up, but even without asking the question, give them some info. So it's something that staff is very intent on, very aware of, just kind of trying to figure out the details of how best to do that.
All right, we just got a couple of questions in that sort of relate to each other here. Someone's wondering if we are still issuing dogs to clients and if there's a waiting list, and another person says that they are on a waiting list for a seizure assist dog. And what is one of the best or most important things you would say to those people who are waiting for a dog?
So we never stopped placing dogs. We had a few weeks there where we were completely shut down and all the dogs had to move out of the facility into volunteer homes. And once again, we thank God for our volunteers. But we never stopped training the dogs, and we never stopped creating teams. So in 2019, there were 51 teams that graduated, which was the highest, I believe, that we had ever had. And in 2020, despite COVID, and believe me, the disruption that COVID caused to this organization, I wasn't here, but the disruption that it caused was extreme. They were able to do 51 teams again, which is, when you look at what other assistance dog organizations around the world did last year, that is amazing that we were able to match the same number in 2020 as we did in 2019. And that's testament to our staff and our volunteers. In 2021, our hope is that we grow from that 51 number to something larger than that. And we are actively doing that now. We have clients in for training right now, and we continue to train dogs. We have several in the kennel right now that are in their final training stages. So that will continue. The waiting lists really vary. This has been an interesting thing for me. I wouldn't have realized, but for mobility dogs, for example, right now, we don't have a waiting list. We actually are a little worried that we may have dogs that are ready to be paired, and we don't have the right person to pair them with. So if you or someone you know needs a mobility dog, I really encourage you. This is about as good a time as any to sign up for one, because we literally don't have a waiting list in that area right now. We don't have long waiting lists in any other area except for our autism assist dogs. And that is a very long waiting list, unfortunately, something that we have to address and will be addressing in the coming years to see how can we whittle that down so people aren't waiting in some cases for years to get a dog. Our other three areas, including seizure assist dogs, that waiting list is, I believe it's less than a year, so it's manageable. And we continue to plug away at that. I wish we could predict just a little bit better and kind of even that out and say, every list has a 4 to 6 months or a 6 to 12 month waiting period, but we just don't know from dog to dog what their gift is going to be and how they are going to be, what niche they're going to fall into, or in some cases, whether they're even going to be an assistance dog. So it's predicting that and leveling it out is very difficult. My only advice would be to be patient, because we're continuing to work full speed. Everyone's working full time. It's just some aren't in the office and some aren't in the facility and some are. But if you're on the waiting list, don't worry. We're still working on that and we'll get there. And Karen, maybe I'll add something, since COVID was asked about at the beginning and opening it up to dog walkers. that kind of comes up when we talk about, what employees are here and which employees aren't. And as I look at making that transition from COVID times to post-COVID times, hopefully in the next several months, there are kind of three different buckets that we've looked at. The first one is, when do we bring employees back? And we've actually made some moves already. Our past policy was, don't come in unless you have to be here. And a few weeks ago, we changed that to come in if you believe you can do your job better here. And because of that, we've started to see more activity amongst employees in the workplace and a few more people here. At some point, we will change to everybody's back in the workplace. And we'll obviously talk about whether we can have alternative working situations now that we've learned some new things about distance working. But that's still at least a few weeks away. So that's one bucket, the employees. The next bucket is, when do we allow volunteers back in? And we talked about that a little bit, including volunteers who are training their dogs. We're doing some in-person training off-site, but we haven't done it for over a year on-site. And hopefully maybe this summer we can get back to that as well. And then the third piece is, when are we going to have an event? When are we going to start having large events in person again? And no promises here, but our hope is that we can do something this summer, an outside in-person event. Maybe it's a volunteer event or a client event, something like that. And then the hope right now is that we can do our Woofaroo in person in September outside. That could change, but that is everybody's goal right now. And then hopefully after that, we can kind of get back to normal. The indoor graduation, that one's going to be a little bit harder. We will probably have one more graduation virtually this late summer, early fall, whenever that is scheduled. And then we'll be looking at the one after that to do in person, just because of such a large crowd. I mean, I'm told, I haven't been to one, but I'm told we absolutely pack this place from wall to wall. And that just becomes harder until we're completely out of this mess. But we are slowly making our way to some level of normalcy again. And hopefully in the next few weeks, you'll see some additional changes there.
All right, let's go back a little bit to when you talked about determining the niche for the puppies. A puppy raiser wanted to know, how does Can Do Canines determine that service area for each particular dog? Can you go into a little more detail on that?
Sure. I'm not the best person to answer this question, and I will probably be corrected by the professionals who actually make these decisions, but I can tell you what I've learned in my time here. So in that year and a half to 2 years before dogs come back to us for final training, so when inmates or volunteers are raising them and doing some of the training, we get feedback then about their personalities, which our staff notes. But the real decision is made once those dogs come in for their final training. Again, it's usually at somewhere between a year and a half and 2 years. And over the course of those several weeks or maybe a couple months that our professional program trainers actually are training dogs one-on-one for part of the day, then they start figuring out what it is that this dog is good at. What's in the background of this dog? What sort of homes or places did the dog grow up in over the last couple of years? Were there children there? And then most importantly to them, what does this dog love to do? Our mission statement talks of a mutually beneficial partnership between a person and a dog, between our clients and a dog. And so while this is really important that we know what can help our client, it's also really important to us that this enhances the dog's life as well. And if we're looking at a dog who really doesn't like to do something, that dog is not going to be matched to do that. If in fact, some of our career change dogs, they're probably just not built to work in the way that an assistance dog has to work all the time. And we're not going to place those dogs because we want our dogs to love what they do. And so, if one of our program trainers starts to realize over time that this dog is, their sense of the smell is really important to them and they're sniffing everything constantly, they might be a really good diabetes assist dog because those dogs need to smell every little change in their client's breath. Or if we have a dog that is just really stoic and unflappable and loves to cuddle and comfort, that might be a great autism dog, because our autism dogs have to be able to handle lots of excitement and sometimes chaos and sometimes loudness and jumping around and not get excited themselves, but try to calm others. And so that's what I understand our program trainers are looking at every single day as they work with these dogs. And over the course of several weeks, then they'll make that decision and say, this area or this area, maybe these two areas, maybe this one area, that's where this dog probably best fits. And then they work with our client services people to say, do we have a potential match here? And it goes from there.
Can we talk about the percentage of pups that do not make it all the way through their training, because someone wants to know where they do get placed and who takes care of that follow through?
Yes. So about 60% of our dogs, let me think about this, make sure I get this right. Yeah, about 60% of our dogs become assistance dogs. Sometimes it's a little less, sometimes it's a little more, but we shoot for 60% who actually graduate and become part of a team. Another small percentage of dogs on top of that go into our breeding program. So they are kind of the best of the best that we want to be part of the breeding program. And I think somebody told me that's maybe around another 5% of the dogs. So that leaves maybe a third to 40% of the dogs who don't fit into either of those categories and do something and become a pet, essentially. We call them career changed dogs because they haven't failed. God just made them a certain way, and it wasn't to be an assistance dog. And it might be because of their personality. It might be because of, whether they really love to work or they don't. It might be because of their health. They might have allergies that are just too difficult for a client to handle. It's not just a little Benadryl every day, or more serious health issues with respect to bone structure or something like that, they just wouldn't be the right fit because they wouldn't be able to perform the way an assistance dog needs to perform. So those dogs are, that third to 40% of those dogs are career changed, and they become somebody's absolutely awesome pet who's already been house trained and trained to do all kinds of wonderful things. We have a list that you can sign up for online to adopt one of those dogs. That list is always long. You have to sign up for it every year. Once you've been on it for a year, you move off and you have to sign up again because everybody's circumstances change over the course of a year, and you might not still want that dog. And what generally happens, not every single time, but what generally happens is when we have a career changed dog, one of our volunteers who helped raise that dog is usually given the first option of adopting the dog because they already have a connection with the dog. And oftentimes one of those volunteers will absolutely happily say, yes, I would love this dog. But if that's not the case, and sometimes it's not, then we move to that list of people who have signed up online, and somebody just gets the wonderful bonus of a beautiful trained dog who just doesn't want to be an assistance dog. So that's generally my understanding. That is how it's done.
Would Can Do Canines consider training some of those career change dogs for PTSD or mental health situations?
So the kind of the bigger question of PTSD or mental health issues and training, that is part of kind of that big growth question that I mentioned we're going to try to tackle over the next couple months with strategic planning. There are, when we talk about how do we serve more people, there are a lot of different directions that could go. One of them would be, maybe we start to train PTSD dogs or dogs for mental illness situations or other sorts of disabilities. I'll be perfectly transparent in saying that thus far in our discussions about strategic planning, there hasn't been a huge appetite for expanding the types of disabilities that we serve. We have 5, and most of the talk has been, let's try to do those 5 even better than what we do now. And as we raise our profile, we know all of those waiting lists are going to expand. And so let's focus first on that rather than expanding maybe to a new geography or a new type of disability. That doesn't mean that won't happen, but right now it doesn't seem like that's the road we're going down. I can tell you that we do train dogs for certain PTSD clients or clients with mental health issues. It's just not the primary disability that they came to us for. So we might have a situation where we have a client with a mobility issue and we're training a mobility dog for them, and they also happen to have PTSD or some other issue. There may be things that we can help train the dog more, almost more of an emotional support benefit to that dog about how they could maybe help calm the person in a certain situation. So we do have PTSD clients. It's not the primary reason that they are here. Now, that question, or part of that question is, could we possibly take career changed dogs who aren't assistance dogs and figure out if there are ways where we could train them to do something different, like an emotional support dog for a PTSD client or someone with a mental illness? And the answer to that is yes, I think that's a possibility. We haven't really talked about that since I've been here in any significant way. But it seems like a good topic for discussion as we talk through how do we grow and serve more people. Is that a possibility? Every possibility should be on the table. I'll just be honest in saying that I haven't seen that one as a likely option in the near future, but it doesn't mean it won't happen.
All right, Jeff, from what you have seen from Can Do Canines so far, how will you leverage your strengths and experience to move the organization forward?
So, as I mentioned, I mean, my background kind of goes on two parallel tracks, one of them in the business, law, HR side of things, and the other in the politics and government side of things. And I think both, I've already found that I'm leveraging the skills that I learned in the background that I have in both of those areas to I think, help me do a better job. On the kind of that business HR side of things, that's really more internal stuff. How do you develop a team? How do you develop employees? Strategic planning internally would all be part of that. And I think that has been helpful as I get to know the organization and get to know the team better. And I think over time that will become even more helpful. So that's kind of the internal side. The external side, a life in politics and government means I am not afraid or unaccustomed to ask people for money, sometimes lots of money. And I think that's a positive. And I see that as an important part of my job, because if we're not funded, we can't do what we need to do. When we talk about raising the profile of the organization, which is going to be a very high priority for me, that's something that I'm comfortable with as a life kind of in the public arena of being able to talk to people and share a message and hopefully get people excited about what we do. So I guess that's how I would see leveraging those skills, both those internal HR legal skills and those external political fundraising skills in the coming years.
All right. Someone specifically wants to know, what's been the biggest surprise to you since becoming our new executive director?
I've had a lot of great little small surprises, positive little, some negative little surprises too. I would say probably the biggest surprise, I've always understood, I don't know the assistance dog world all that well, and getting to know it, but I've always understood that assistance dogs can change someone's life in a positive way. I had no idea how significant that change is. And it's usually not just for a person, it's for a family or maybe even broader than that. That's been a wonderful surprise. And I point specifically to families who have children with autism as I talk to especially some of these parents and the stories they have to tell about how this dog, who was trained by someone else, seems to immediately and instinctively know that their person is the kid. It's not mom or dad who actually they may have been introduced to first. They immediately know that they are there as a partner for this child. And what they end up doing, the first thing we train an autism dog for is to protect a child physically, because sometimes children with autism, when they're out in public, will get distracted and might bolt. And so they might get lost or they might run out into the street where there are cars. And that hinders a lot of families from being able to go out and do the things that they would want to do. And so the primary thing that an autism dog is trained to do is to be tethered to that child so the child can't bolt. And that works really well as long as the child is of a certain size. But what I'm hearing from parents over and over and over again is, yeah, that is wonderful for us, but that's not the magic of this. The magic is how this dog has changed our child emotionally. A child that maybe had eruptions on a fairly regular basis, somehow that dog knows how to calm that child in a way that no human being could do before. And so just the change in the family life is tremendous in that way. And then you hear the stories from parents about how their child with autism has been pulled out of his or her shell into the outside world in a way that they never would do before, could do before, wanted to do before, because this dog has created a bridge to other people. And it has made their child a different person with just much more meaning in their life. And when you through the tears of these parents as they tell you about this, I had no idea that these dogs, you knew they were special, but they're that special and that they could have that profound an impact on an entire family, maybe even an extended family. So long answer to that short question, but that's probably been the best surprise.
We're going to change that only slightly because someone else asks, what do you feel has been your biggest challenge so far?
The biggest challenge is walking around this facility and running into 6 or 8 or 10 dogs every single day who are being trained and not be able to get down on the floor and cuddle with them because you have to ignore them because they're working assistance dogs. That just kills me. That's probably a selfish challenge. So maybe a more reasonable challenge. It really, for me, it is just learning the world of assistance dogs. I didn't have a clue about how to train, how training assistance dogs works. I mean, I have a 12-year-old pet bulldog, but he doesn't really listen to me. So I don't have a clue about how to train assistance dogs. And so trying to learn this, in 3.5 months, I have a long way to go. But I'm slowly, surely getting there, but it's certainly been the most challenging. And what I'm sure to a lot of people seems maybe not all that complex. It really is. This is a very complicated, complex business with a lot of different moving parts, and a lot of different living beings, humans and dogs that, again, I will go back to how impressed I am with our staff that they can pull this off year after year after year.
So other than continuing to learn about this service dog industry as a challenge that you mentioned there, what do you see as our challenges moving forward, not only for this year, but for the next, say, 3 to 5 years, people want to know?
So the short-term challenges are the same challenges that every organization in the world is going to be facing in the coming months. And that is moving from where we've been the last year into whatever's next, because we don't know what's next. And that, what we think is next seems to change from week to week. And so while everything looks really pretty good right now, maybe next week it won't. And so, trying to figure out what is going to be normal in a month and 6 months, and, how are we going to have to adapt to, what doesn't go back to the way it used to be. So I think that's the most immediate challenge we have, is how do we just work our way out of this and get back to something that is more stable. The longer term challenge, I think there are probably a lot of challenges, but the one that strikes me, the one that is most difficult and frustrating for me, I have found as I've talked to other executive directors or CEOs of assistance dog organizations around the country, we all share. And Al and I have had this conversation too. And that is, how over time do you stabilize, for lack of a better term, how do you stabilize all of the moving parts of this very unique type of organization? And we are unique because I think we have more moving parts, or at least more living parts, than almost any organization I know of, because we have clients who are obviously living human beings and who have a lot more unpredictability in their lives than a lot of us do, and their lives can change on a dime, good, bad, or any other way. And then our whole purpose is to pair them with another living being, which happens to be a dog who, we can try to control their genes and their behavior, but we only have so much luck with that. And we can try to control their health, but we only have so much luck with that. And we don't know what their personality is really going to be like or what their mood is going to be from day to day. And trying to manage those moving parts, and then you throw into that, we have what we call 5 pillars here. One of them is our clients and one are our dogs, but we also have volunteers, donors, and staff, employees. And when you add all that in, it becomes really complicated. I'd have to say our donors and our staff have, over the years, it appears to me, been pretty stable. And I think that says a lot about our donors and our staff. But there's still people, and there are still recessions and tough times, and there are still, different things that happen that every organization has to deal with. And then, of course, we have our volunteers, which many organizations have, but nowhere near to the level that we have. And we see a small change in a handful of super volunteers, and we've got ourselves a big problem on our hands. So trying to manage all that, trying to keep those things level, so that we're not in a position where this year we actually have maybe too many dogs for mobility clients. We won't, we'll find the clients, but right now we actually need clients. And maybe in 2 years, all of a sudden, we're not going to have enough dogs and our list is going to have grown. And now we've got a 1.5 year long waiting list for mobility clients. Trying to figure out how to stabilize all that, that's the biggest challenge. There is not an answer. If there was an answer, Al and his staff would have figured it out 20 years ago or 10 years ago, or these other CEOs that I'm talking to would have, because they all say the same thing. But the challenge is, are there processes we can put in place to help with that area? There are still going to be completely unforeseen things that happen that are going to throw it off kilter. But are there ways that we don't have at least big swings from year to year or half decade to half decade?
Okay, let's move into some questions related to volunteering. Someone asked what role you feel volunteers will play in your strategic plan. And related to that, someone stated that some service dog organizations have an advisory team made up of volunteer raisers to communicate improvements to the organization. Do you think that's something that Can Do Canines would consider?
So the first half of the question about strategic planning. So as we create a framework, not after we've created a draft and made decisions, but as we kind of create a framework and of those 3 things I talked about, actually decide that those are at least 3 of the areas we're going to focus on, then our strategic planning consultant, we've hired someone from the outside to lead this. We've already provided his team with the names of multiple volunteers, multiple clients, and multiple donors to go into what they call the testing phase. So to sit down, probably over Zoom or maybe over the phone, individually with these people and say, okay, here are some of the things we're thinking about. We want your feedback. What are we missing? Are we off base? Does this one not make any sense? And do you have ideas that we haven't even thought of? We want to do that. We don't want to do that at such an early point that there's really nothing to present yet, but we want to do it well before we feel like we're on the road to a final decision, because then that input isn't of much value. So that'll be coming probably in the next few weeks. With respect to an advisory committee, the answer is yes. And again, here is something that before I came, there had been talk, and staff was very interested in trying to make this work. And our goal is to make that work, to create some sort of advisory committee for volunteers. And we'll probably talk about that down the road for clients as well, so that we can get more input on a regular basis. The devil's in the details on some of this, because you don't want to create an organization or a body where the 2 sides have different expectations of what happens with this advisory committee. And then you have questions about who gets to be on it and how do you choose those people. But we can work through all that. And I think that there's an absolute intent on the part of staff to make this happen. Again, probably not in the next few weeks, but hopefully, in the next few months, and certainly by the end of the year, we can hopefully have the framework for something of that in place. And I think that will be of great benefit, not just to volunteers, but to the organization, because many of our volunteers know this organization really, really well and have a lot of great ideas about how we can be better. I think did I get both questions, Karen?
I believe we're good.
Okay.
I do want to mention we were having some trouble with closed caption in case there were people that have been experiencing that. So we're troubleshooting on the side as best we can. We apologize. We will have a transcript available. So if anyone needs to check with us on that, please do so. You can either put that in the questions and we can be sure to mark you for that and send it to you. Or you can email us separately and we'll be sure to get that out afterward. So we apologize for that confusion. Back to the questions. We've got a number of them that are still coming in. How about, let's stay on the volunteer track because I know someone was asking about Wisconsin in particular. For encouraging new volunteers in Wisconsin, are there specific plans for that? Because sometimes they feel like they're pretty far away from our headquarters here in New Hope.
Yep. I don't know if there are specific plans for that. I know that that is a constant topic of discussion, in particular, as we look at, possibly expanding into other prisons in Wisconsin. We need a volunteer base near those prisons to actually make that work. And we just need more volunteers in Wisconsin overall. We've got a great volunteer team here with Katie and Lori, and Robin used to do that. And I know that they have been working, but if you happen to be a Wisconsin volunteer or donor or whatever on this call, and you have ideas about how we can better reach out to Wisconsinites, I know that's an issue where we feel like we need to do better, and there's been some level of frustration. So we are very, very interested in your ideas or input there. And if, your help there, if you know of people who might be interested or know of an organization that might get to people who might be interested, talk us up or give me a call or an email, or Karen a call or an email, and we'll talk ourselves up. You just got to make the introduction.
Related to that specifically, Jeff, do you think there's a possibility of locating another Can Do Canines in Wisconsin somewhere?
Like a physical facility?
It looks like that's what they're asking, yes.
On the short-term horizon, I don't think that's likely. We have talked about possibly building, but that building wouldn't be like another office or headquarters. Because if you do that, you also have to staff another office or headquarters with more people. But we have talked about the outside possibility of building a puppy center or a place where we could whelp. If we decide that we want to grow in a significant way, and we might not decide that, but if we did, we would need to continue to have all of our volunteer whelpers, but we would need to add to that in a big way. And we might not be able to do that just with volunteers. So we might have, in addition to that, a whelping facility that could handle that. We could also, if we did that, then make part of that a training facility, because we could always use more room for that. But if we did that, we would likely do it near here, simply because a lot of the same employees would be doing a lot of the same work. We've got 4 acres here in New Hope, and we have room to build another building here if we decided to, be really bold and aggressive and have another capital campaign and raise a few $1 million. We could build it right next door here. But again, now you've got me talking the dream as opposed to talking what is part of the plan right now. So the short answer, I don't see creating a facility in Wisconsin, but we do see the need of probably trying to be a bit more active there than we have been. You
mentioned earlier about the financial stability. Someone would like to know if we applied for any of the federal pandemic funds allowed for not-for-profit organizations, or is the financial stability all based on donors?
We did. So the PPP loans, I'm sure, is what they are referring to. And we applied for and received, or they did, it was before I was here, applied for and received one last year. And we have applied for and received one this year. Our last year's PPP loan has now been officially forgiven, so we don't have to pay it back. And we assume that this year's will be as well, because we'll follow all the rules. That has been a huge benefit for us because it is one of the reasons we're financially stable. It's also one of the reasons we didn't have to even consider laying anybody off. And had we had to start laying people off, we couldn't have made 51 teams last year either. So the history of Can Do Canines before last year, I don't believe we had ever sought or accepted government funds. And the plan is to continue that. For our day-to-day operating basis, we haven't sought government funds because the strings attached often are create more complexities and problems than the money that you receive. The PPP loans were a different situation because without them, we would have been in not a great situation. And so I'm very supportive and thankful that we got that last year and have it again this year. I don't suspect that there will be that again next year, and we'll be back to kind of some level of normality and probably won't be seeking any further government funds.
All right, we have this one that came in that says, given the strong interest to grow Can Do Canines, talent plays a key role in supporting and fulfilling the mission, whether that be employees, volunteers, clients, donors, etc. How might you see a focus on selecting, developing, and growing Can Do Canines' talent base play out?
We have to do a better job, and I talked about this at the beginning, we have to do a better job of casting a wider net. We all have our networks, but it turns out that our networks within this organization are somewhat limited, which is why we are a fairly homogeneous organization. And so we need to, in order to develop that talent and in order to bring in new talent, we need a wider range of people than what we've been able to find in the past. And that hopefully leads to a more diverse organization in multiple different ways. But more importantly, it will lead to an even more talented organization, whether it's with volunteers or employees or board members or donors or clients. And so to me, the most important thing about developing the future from a people standpoint of the organization is that we figure out a way to cast our net wider. We figure out a way to raise awareness in communities where we just haven't been before because none of us have been part of that community in the past. I think that is the key to developing the people in the future in this organization.
Okay, this is a very specific one. What is the status of the study Can Do Canines is doing with the U of M regarding how assistance dogs connect with children with autism?
So, I'm so glad someone asked that question because this is so exciting. And there's a two-part answer to this because we have a study that's been done and now we have one that we are hoping will be done if we can get funding for it. So we have a wonderful foundation, the Maslowski. I hope I was supposed to say that, but we have a wonderful foundation who funded a study 2 or 3 years ago, giving part of the money to the U of M and part of the money to Can Do Canines to study how autism assist dogs can measurably help children with autism and families. Because in the past, there just hasn't been much out there. And some people, including foundations from whom we're seeking money, will say, well, yeah, it's kind of like an emotional support dog, but there's really nothing tangible that happens. It's like having a really nice pet. And we knew that that wasn't true and that there's much more to it. And but we needed to be able to show that. And so we have a wonderful researcher from the U of M, and we've been working with her for 2 or 3 years. And she put out a report now fairly recently that shows this is actually measurable, it's tangible, it's something that can be shared worldwide. It's something that will benefit us as we seek funding. It's something that will benefit every other assistance dog organization that trains autism assist dogs. So it's really exciting. And the other piece of it is that it gave us some new information on things that we can do in our breeding practices to maybe help breed dogs that have those specific autism skills, which are, they're hard to come by. That's our longest waiting list by far. So the status of that is it's done. Part one is done. Our researcher there, the doctor over there who's done all the work, Dr. Sang, hasn't been able to, travel the country and present this at different things because we're in the middle of COVID, but she will at some point. Now what we've done is we've requested, and we're very hopeful about a second very large grant from the same organization that would build on that study with the same team, essentially. It would build particularly on, are there things we can do to help breed autism dogs? But it also goes in a brand new direction, which is so exciting. And that is, can we train our seizure dogs to actually pre-alert for a seizure? So what our seizure dogs do right now is when someone is having a seizure, they are immediately there to help them and comfort them and help get them out of that seizure, help them in that, difficult, disorienting period right after a seizure by cuddling, by licking their face and licking their hands and doing some other things and maybe getting help in some situations. If we could train a seizure dog to pre-alert, like we do our diabetes dogs, who before you have a blood sugar crash, they tell you that, and in some cases literally save your life. If we could train a dog to pre-alert to a seizure, then the person who's going to have a seizure can get themselves in a safe place. If they're driving or if they're walking down the street or if they're alone, maybe they can do something certainly to create a more safe environment for them. And it would be an absolute game changer. So we're really excited about this because as far as we know, no one has done this research before. And we have some pretty talented people on staff here who really believe this can be done. So I'm really excited about that. We should know in the next few months whether we're funded. If circumstances don't allow that just because of finances right now, we will still keep trying. But it's really exciting. So whoever asked that question, thank you.
Jeff, you talked about our pillars before, and someone is asking where we would consider the importance of educating the public on service animal law and etiquette as part of that.
Yeah, as we've talked in strategic planning about enhancing the experience for clients and volunteers, particularly for clients, one of the things that come up is, could we be more active as advocates as an organization, whether it's using our volunteers to do that, whether it's using our employees to do that? Are there ways where we could be advocates for people with disabilities who have assistance dogs, or maybe even people with disabilities more broadly, by educating people, by educating police officers about what could be happening in a certain situation, by educating business owners, by educating bus drivers, what their obligations are under the law to allow someone with an assistance dog to be in their business or ride on their bus. So yes, that actually I suspect will be part of where we want to go. What form that takes, nobody really knows yet. But I think it would be a positive and interesting addition to what we're already doing.
I think this might be our last one here, but someone asks, the mission of Can Do Canines has historically served the organization well, quote, be able to provide enough dogs so that every potential client who wants a dog can get a dog. With your new leadership, do you see that changing or being modified in any way?
So possibly, but not because of me. That would come through our strategic planning process. I don't think there's much likelihood that we would change the mission of the organization, which talks of creating this mutually beneficial partnership between a person and a dog, especially a trained dog. We may look at changing the vision, though, which is, I think, what this person is referring to, that says that, you know, our vision is for a future where everyone who wants and needs a service dog can have one. I mean, that's such a huge, all-encompassing vision, and frankly, not very realistic. That there has been a lot of talk about, should we look at having a different, maybe more focused vision on what we do? So it's possible that vision changes. I don't think the mission will change, but it's possible that the vision of the future will change, and it will be a little more a little more focused on us and our community and what we do.
We have one that just came in, and let's make this our last question then, as they've been lessening here. This is, there have been some changes that could drastically change the role of breeder hosts. Can you speak to the reasons at all behind those changes?
I cannot. Dang, you have to finish with a question.
Oh, no.
But
if,
but Karen, if you hang on to that, I can, you know, I'll follow up on that and try to figure out what exactly they're talking about. I might have, I've got some guesses in my head, but I absolutely don't want to go there because they might be wrong.
Sounds good. That's that will sum things up. We're at 8:01. So.
Well, I want to, first of all, I want to thank you, Karen and Peter and Kathy Ba. I know you guys have put in a ton of time in the last few weeks, because this is a format and a tool we have never used here, because we've never had to, but you've made it work, and I think it's gone off largely without a hitch. So thank you for that. Thank you, Justine, for interpreting for me. And I just want to thank everybody, not just for being here, but everybody on this call or on this Zoom is really integral to what we do. And you love our organization, and we are so thankful for that. And I just can't wait to meet you all in person, hopefully someday soon. And I think that's it.
That's it. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.